This is a recommencement of a recorded interview between Senior Constable Tyson Fisher and Jeff conducted at the Geelong Police Station on Thursday the 25th of February 2021. Also present is my corroborator,
Detective Senior Constable Georgia Hammond, 40416.
Alright. Do you agree the time is now, on my watch, 10:59?
Yes, it is.
What is your full name and address?
Jeff James O'Toole, 20.
I intend to interview you in relation to impersonating a government official. Before continuing, I must inform you that you do not have to say or do anything, but anything you say or do may be given as evidence. Understand that?
Yes, I do.
I must also inform you of your rights. You have the right to communicate with or attempt to communicate with a friend or relative to inform that person of your whereabouts. You have the right to communicate with or attempt to communicate with a legal practitioner. If you are not a citizen or permanent resident of Australia, you have the right to communicate with or attempt to communicate with the consular office of the country of which you are a citizen. Do you understand these rights?
Yes, I do.
Alright, do you wish to exercise any of these rights before we proceed with the interview? Alright, what is your age and date of birth?
I'm 32. My date of birth is 29th of the 11th, 1988.
Are you an Australian citizen?
Yes, I am.
Are you a permanent resident of Australia?
Yes, I am.
Are you of Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander descent?
No, I'm not.
So, Jeff, sorry. The reason. So, tell me about your involvement in the removal of anti-vaccine or vaccination posters on Monday, the 11th of November 2019.
Well, firstly, the allegations that have been brought forward in relation to impersonation of a government official, I find that false and misleading. I attended the surgery prior to the video in question. I produced a Medicare card, my name, date of birth. I organised a consultation with a doctor from that surgery. I expressed my concern in relation to the promotional material that was in the reception. I asked questions in relation to the risks associated with vaccinations, and I expressed my interest to proceed in relation to the removal of the posters. I said, what would be the correct channels? How do we go about addressing that? The doctor said he recommended I attend at a later time and talk to the girls at the front desk in regards to that. Now, that was all documented. I have the information to substantiate that. When I attended the surgery at a later time, which was a couple of days later, they were well aware of that. The doctor, it was brought to his attention. I arrived. They were under no impression that I was from a government body. I didn't produce any documentation to have them be under that impression. I wasn't wearing any type of uniform that would give them that idea. There was no badge or anything like that. They never specifically asked where I was from. My interpretation, as the previous consultation with the doctor was aware, I was there as a concerned member of the public, and I operate a media organisation here in Melbourne. I was addressing numerous complaints that were brought to my front desk, people that had submitted. They were very concerned about the posters in relation to free flu shots for pregnant women. There is risks attached, and I simply took in a copy of the papers, and in communicating with members of the surgery, I stated it's their rules. I did not take ownership of the rules that I was showing. When the doctor asked me more and questioned me in relation to this, I said it's up to him to do his own research. I said that numerous times. I personally did not remove any posters myself. I explained the risks, and I said, shall we get these posters down? And the doctor said, I'll get the front girls to do that. So they proceeded and went forth with that. And it's up to the doctor to do his own investigations and research the risks attached. And I explained the liability the surgery could be under if somebody was to enter in and then they suffered adverse reactions. I said it might be worth looking into for the patient's best interest and for the surgery. So I was there and I had a moral obligation to ensure the safety of the public. And all this is documented.
All right. So I'll just go over it again.
Yes.
What you've told me. So
Absolutely.
you've attended the surgery and you've produced your medical card, your Medicare card, and organised a consult with the doctor.
Absolutely, in relation to vaccines. That's
Oh.
right. This was all above board. It was all vocalised. I have video documentation as well.
Yep.
That's why I find these allegations very misleading.
Yep.
And I believe it is a coordinated attack on free speech and people that are anti-vaccination and pro-choice. I was listed to give a speech this week, and as soon as the flyer went out, I received this call in relation to this, a video that is 18 months old, I will add to the record.
So do you remember what day it was that it happened?
The exact day and time.
Yeah, or roughly.
It's all on record. It's on the channel, and that was uploaded. Yeah, so it's all on record.
Do you remember? So what year was it?
It was 2019.
And
It was. You stated it in the phone call. It was roughly 18 months ago,
And what month do you think it?
possibly October.
Yep.
I would just. I'd have to go back and look at the record
Yeah, that's right.
because it was a long time ago.
Yep.
And I find it quite unusual that this is all being addressed now during this COVID crisis that has been implemented and this pandemic. So I find it, very strange that they would wait until now to address this.
If I said to you November 2019,
Possibly.
Yep. Oh.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
A lot has changed since then.
All right. And when you've attended, you've expressed your concerns about some of the risks associated with vaccines. Talk me through that.
Most certainly, and it's also listed in the vaccine manufacturer's inserts.
Yep.
There is a risk attached, and the risk can even be fatal.
I'm not so much the general risk. I'm more interested in this specific day. What actually occurred? So if you can keep your answers sort of more about what occurred on the day that we're talking about.
Well, if I stated quite clearly, if someone was to enter in and they suffered from adverse reactions, it could be very serious, and it's in the patient's best interest to have the proper information supplied. And I've found it very deceptive to have promotional material in a surgery where this is a medical procedure, and if someone was to enter in just because they read into that and they didn't do enough research behind it, it could be very detrimental to someone's health and well-being. We know that there is a lot on record of people that have been struck down. They are non-verbal, there's been fatalities because they've had adverse reactions, and having all this promotional material, I found that to be unethical, and also acting on the complaints that were brought forward on the public's best interests. And that's my obligation to follow up on that. I had women, I've interviewed mothers of vaccine injured children, I've done extensive amounts of research, and I thought information, have everybody accountable and make sure everybody knows what's taking place. And I thought I was, and I still do believe I was doing a wonderful service for the surgery and the patients. And I did state repeatedly, it's up for the doctor to do his own research in relation to the risks.
Well, tell me about this obligation.
Well, when people send messages through, they say they are very concerned. They might have had a loved one that's been adverse reactions. They've had numerous people that were very worried, and they found it very troubling to have promotional material plastered all over the walls free flu shots for pregnant women, and that can definitely pose a risk to an unborn child. And I found that very troubling myself, so I thought in the best interests of all parties involved it would be good to address this, and I stated that prior to the video in question, and that was all above board. They knew that I would come back at a later time and address this with them. So that's why I find these allegations very misleading.
Do you have an unedited copy of the video?
I did have for a very long time, and I can still go back and look. It was 18 months ago. So, I mean, 18 months. Like, I'm sure probably for the first 12 months, I've had plenty of stuff on there. All types of edited, unedited videos, all types of files like that. But yes, I do have a copy of where I attended the surgery. I organised a consultation. They have my Medicare card. They have my details. They knew I was going to attend prior. So that was the doctor's responsibility to inform the ladies at the front desk and the doctor that there was a gentleman inquiring in relation to the posters. They were well aware of my attendance. So I find this has been a calculated and coordinated effort to try and censor and silence free speech in relation to this.
Earlier you said send a message through it. What do you mean to what? So you want to, how do you send a message through? Tell me about that.
Pardon?
Earlier you said you send a message through to the public. How do you, have you got, well, tell me about Jeffrow Productions.
No, it's We Are Change Melbourne.
Oh, We Are Change Melbourne. Tell me about that.
We Are Change Melbourne is an international organisation, media branch. I expose corruption. I've interviewed doctors, lawyers, politicians. I've covered events. I've been a reporter for over 5 years. And my aim is to help the public and bring forward information that is not broadcasted on mainstream media. It's important to have numerous viewpoints so the public can make an informed decision, not just mainstream media propaganda that's been broadcasted for 3.5 hours every morning that only gives biased opinions. So it is vital that the public have all the information necessary to make an informed decision.
And how many subscribers do you have to We Are Change Melbourne?
3,750. It would be more, but I've ceased broadcasting during this COVID pandemic. Yes.
And what sort of
Recently,
platforms?
so I haven't uploaded much in the past month, but platforms, BitChute.
Sorry, what is it?
BitChute is one. Archive.org is another platform, as well as Instagram, the Facebook page.
Facebook,
Yes.
Instagram. And what is that? Is that all of it? BitChute.
Yes, that's right.
BitChute.
BITCHUTE.
Oh, there you go. So tell me what you did after you've left the doctor's office, after consulting with the doctor.
I went back to my address. I put together the video, and I uploaded it.
More specifically, like even before leaving the surgery, like, so you said you were taken back, you went and spoke to the doctor?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Okay, so I talked to the girls at the front desk. They said, would you like to speak to a doctor? I said, absolutely, let's do that. I went back, and as it states in the video, it's all on the video. So what you see there is exactly what transpired. I stated that I was concerned about the risks. I showed them a copy of the guidelines, which I believe those guidelines were changed after the date that the consultation was made.
Can I jump in real quick? The first time that you attended the COVID or the medical clinic, and you said you produced your Medicare card
Yes.
and asked for a consultation.
Absolutely.
Did that consultation occur on that same day?
Absolutely.
Yep. And then when you said I will be back
Yes.
at some point, how long after did you come back?
A couple of days.
Okay.
I wanted to give them sufficient time to do their research.
Yep.
I wanted to give him time to talk to the doctor,
Yep.
to talk to the girls at the desk, and have their information on hand that they can provide me with.
Yep. So there's no appointments, is that right? It's just
There was an appointment that I made on the first consultation,
Yep.
and he requested that I come back and speak to the girls at the front desk,
Okay.
which I followed the doctor's instructions and followed through with that.
And that was in a couple of days.
That's
Yep.
right.
So yeah, so you've come back, you've spoken to the ladies at the reception,
Yes,
and then you had a copy of the TGA guidelines. You said
correct.
Alright, tell me what happened from there.
And then I went and spoke to the doctor, and what you see on the video, I explained that I was concerned about the promotional material, and he should do his research in regards to that for the patient's best interests and for the interests of the surgery. And I stated it could be a risk having these posters up. Shall we get them down now before somebody gets hurt or injured? Because that was my main concern. And he said, what about the flu shots? And I repeatedly said, well, it's up to you to do your own research in regards to that. And I said, thank you very much for your cooperation. Have a lovely day.
And then what happened from there?
And then I went to the front desk. I handed the girls at the reception a copy of the documents for them to photocopy. I made sure everything was above board, and I made sure that they had copies of it so they could continue further the inquiries and get the information necessary so they can take the appropriate actions for the best interests of their patients, which I think is very important. And yes, and then they proceeded and they took the posters down, and and I said, thank you very much, have a lovely day. And I repeatedly said, look, I urge you to do some research in regards to this, and in relation to the regulations surrounding the advertisements of vaccines. And whenever something's being advertised like that and there's risks attached, that could have disastrous consequences, so I wanted to make sure that everyone was safe and for the safety of the public under a moral obligation. I did not want to ignore parents, mothers, concerned citizens. They sending through messages saying they're very worried about that, and rightfully so. Anytime that there's, it even states in the manufacturer's inserts that there is a risk. So it was a moral obligation to follow through and follow up on those inquiries that were brought forward.
And then what's happened once you've left the surgery? Tell me about
I
that.
said, have a nice day. I left. I uploaded the video as I stated.
But just so I've got it clear in my head, I'll
Yes.
just explain, or I'll repeat what you've told me.
Yep,
Alright, and feel free to chime in if you think
certainly.
I've missed anything or I've got it all wrong. So, in late 2019, so of October, November,
Sure.
you've
Yes.
attended medical surgery. You were there a couple of days prior, and you
Yeah.
booked an appointment,
Absolutely.
and you produced your what was it, your Medicare card?
Absolutely.
Produced your Medicare card. Did you talk with the doctor
Yes, I did.
that day?
Absolutely.
And what did you tell him?
I said I'm very concerned about the promotional material. I also talked about the ingredients in relation to the vaccines. We spoke about that for a while. And then I expressed my concerns in relation to the advertisements. And he said, yes, that is up to the girls at the front desk to attend to that. So allow them time, because the surgery was packed. I thought, well, I'll let them deal with patients that are in serious need, and I'll come back a couple of days later as directed.
And what was the medical centre that you actually attended?
That was Coburg. It's on the corner there.
On the corner of...
It's on the main road, which I think is Brunswick.
If I said Bell and Sydney, would that ring a bell?
Could be, yes.
Bell Street and Sydney Road.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Alright. And then, so you've attended, you've spoken to the doctor, and you've noticed that they've got all this promotional.
Yes.
You're concerned about the material.
Absolutely.
Up, but you've given them a chance to take the material down, so you've...
Exactly. And do their research in regards to that. Yes.
Right. But you've never... you never followed through with the medical appointment on that day? Like, what was your...
I did follow through with the medical appointment. Absolutely, I did. I have the bills as well. I've actually got the record. It's all on record.
Oh,
so I went to the front desk at the initial encounter.
Yep.
I went in. I was polite and courteous, respectful. I organised a consultation with a doctor. I stated to the receptionist it's in regards to vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
They said that's fine. I waited patiently. I seen the doctor and I explained what I just explained in relation to the ingredients and the promotional material. He said, okay, I'll take that up with the girls at the front desk and speak to them in relation to that. I thought, well, I'll give them a couple of days to do some research because they might look into it and they might say, no, that's fine, we're allowed to have that there. Give them time to look at it. Or they might say, no, you're definitely right, there is a risk there, and the advertisements could definitely fall under, it's not regulated, it's not lawful having that. So I gave them adequate time to make those inquiries.
Oh. So then a couple of days later,
Yep.
you've attended the medical surgery again and filmed your interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all above board.
So if I said that was Monday the 11th of November...
I couldn't confirm the exact day, time and date. It was 18 months ago.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can appreciate that.
And then you've spoken with the doctor, you've gone in, you've attended the actual surgery,
I organised a consultation with them, and that was filed with Medicare.
Yep.
So
you've
they
spoken
have.
with the receptionist, and then you've
Yes.
gone to the back with...
I gave them my Medicare card.
Yep.
Yes.
With the
So that's
doctor.
why I find these allegations very misleading and very fraudulent. And yes, I will be. Yes, I will be pursuing this. This is also derogatory and defamation. That's yes, it's very startling that this is being pursued. I believe there's ulterior motives behind this. It's due to this corona. They're desperately trying to censor people. It's a coordinated effort. I find it very unusual that they would wait 18 months and then try and address this now. The vaccine is being rolled out. So, yes, it's very alarming and very sinister, I believe. I believe the corruption...
Jeff, if we can just keep it just
Yeah,
to the interview.
Yeah, okay, but
alright?
yes.
I appreciate that you may have some concerns about
Yeah, very
timing
much
and
so.
others, but
Very much so. It's quite obvious.
let's just leave it.
Yes, let's leave that.
We'll stick to our
Yeah.
points here.
Yeah,
Alright.
yeah.
So then you've gone the back, you've spoken with the doctor,
Yes, yeah.
you've voiced your opinion again, and you've produced a copy of the guidelines.
Correct, and I
Tell me about
presented
those
that.
guidelines.
The guidelines I printed straight off from the website. I said, have a read of the information, and he had more than adequate opportunity to, he took photocopies, he could make phone calls, he had every opportunity necessary to validate the information supplied.
Yep.
and more than enough time to get the information and have the adequate procedure in place.
Alright. Whose guidelines were they?
That was straight off the government website.
What's the government website?
That was TGA, and they changed those guidelines 1 or 2 days later.
And who is the TGA?
Therapeutic Goods Administration.
And what do they do?
Therapeutic Goods and Administration, they oversee the health, promotional material in regards to posters. They cover numerous health-related matters.
Do you remember what was actually written on the guidelines?
18 months ago.
Alright.
So and those guidelines were changed
Yeah,
since.
changed.
So,
Yeah, as you say. Yep. And how many copies did you print?
a couple of them, maybe. I'm not sure. Like maybe one. I had enough sufficient for. I handed over a copy. They took copies.
Yep.
Yeah, it was all done in a professional manner.
So then you've handed out those, and then you've gone back to the girls at the reception.
As directed, yes. I was directed to do so by the doctor.
Directed to do so.
Yeah.
Alright. So then you've spoken with the girls. Have you supplied them?
Yes, absolutely. I said make multiple copies of it,
Yeah.
and have that on file
Oh.
as well. And I implore them to do their research and follow up on that.
Alright. When earlier you mentioned that you did it in a professional.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me about that.
I spoke very professionally, like I do as operating in as a journalist. That's how I speak, very assertive,
Yep.
and in a professional manner.
Yep.
Yes.
And what was your intention when you were sort of handing out the TGA guidelines to both the doctor and the receptionist? And you're speaking very professional.
Yep.
Tell me about what was going through your head at the time. Or what was your intention?
My intention was to supply the information, have them make their own inquiries in relation to the posters and whether or not they were able to continue advertising in that fashion, and make them aware that a lot of people were concerned and complaining about them. And I think if the doctor, it's for his best interest, if people are making complaints about his surgery, it's in his best interest that he should be informed of that. So it was a public service,
Yep.
and it's very important that people do that. Make their inquiries when you're entering into a medical procedure. Have all the information necessary to make an informed decision when it comes to your health.
So you're speaking professionally and you're handing out.
I always speak professionally, yeah, regardless of what environment I'm in.
How were you dressed?
In
Can you
jeans,
describe what you're wearing?
jeans, and a t-shirt and jacket. So there was no uniform in place. I don't know what the TGA, what they would wear, what they do. I do not know how they conduct their business at all. I was not wearing any type of uniform. I had never produced any documentation whatsoever. In my knowledge, they had my information on record. They knew what the inquiry was in relation to. So that's why I found this very, very concerning and very fraudulent, these allegations.
And I forgot to mention or ask you, what sort of time of day was it?
Lunchtime, afternoon,
Yep.
We're going back a while here.
Alright.
Yeah. So it's, the timing.
But it was obviously within.
It was within hours.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was within hours.
Were there many people inside the surgery, like
A few.
customers or patients?
A few, yeah.
Yeah. Alright. Yeah, so tell me about this public service you're talking about. Describe to me what that means.
Well, as a journalist, people often submit information for me to make my inquiries in regards to. Could be complaining about a medical service, it could be complaining about a legal service, it could be complaining about the police department, law enforcement, it could be police brutality. They want me to look into it. It could be a myriad of reasons that people, they exhaust all efforts with the mainstream media. Current Affair might not want to take the case. They've tried everything. So they reach out to independent media to have their story broadcasted or make inquiries on their behalf and contact the media. That's what they do. And it's my obligation to take all those inquiries on board and look at the information presented. Yes.
Have you got any questions at this stage?
No. When you say your obligation to who or for what?
To the public as a journalist.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
And how do you think the receptionist and the doctor, when you've attended, tell me or describe to me how you think they would have interpreted your behaviour?
Well, that's all speculation, isn't it? And I find that is irrelevant. I am not a psychic. I can't read their mind.
Yep.
I do not know what they would be thinking or feeling. That's purely speculative. In my opinion, they were advised beforehand of the matter that was going to be addressed, and they had all my information on file. So for me to try and ascertain how they were thinking, feeling, or their emotional state, that is purely speculation. So I find that irrelevant in that matter. I mean, it's just speculation, isn't it?
Well, I'm just asking for your opinion.
Yeah, well, I can't. Well, my opinion was they knew why I was there and the matter. They had ample time to make their own inquiries, and they were informed of my presence previously. So, in my opinion, they should have been well informed of what was taking place. Yes.
Do you think that if you did go into that clinic and, as you said, acting professionally in a professional manner, and you speak quite assertive, do you think they could have been a little bit intimidated by that whole process?
That's speculation. I don't think that personally. Not at all.
No?
No.
But you're just speculating.
That's right. That's purely speculative.
Yep.
Trying to, I don't think that carries any weight whatsoever. How someone would be judging how they're thinking or their emotional state.
It's more just to get this is our job. Obviously, we've been given one piece of information or one allegation, and as our job as investigators is to get your side of the story, and that's what this is about. So, trying to get a bit of an insight into where you're coming from, what your intentions were. So it might be speculations, or it might be irrelevant in your eyes, but we're just trying to get an understanding of what exactly has taken place that day, because we weren't there. It's obviously being reported to police, so it's our job to get both sides of the story and work out there's a truth that's going to lie in there somewhere. So getting those, getting the recap from you and trying to work out what you think people were thinking, and what it is all relevant to our job.
What I think people are thinking.
Or your intention of what you do and how people respond to that is very much relevant to our job and what we're trying to work out.
They responded well in a professional manner, and they were very helpful, polite and courteous. It seemed like common procedure.
Yep.
And as a concerned patient and member of the public coming forward, seemed like quite normal. I mean, it seems like a standard situation. In my opinion, quite common, nothing out of the ordinary. Someone coming and presenting information, wanting to have a chat with a doctor about promotional material. It seems all common, nothing unusual.
Do you think you would have received the same reaction had you have been, or not had the guidelines with you and been so, intimidating?
I don't find it intimidating whatsoever. Frankly, I dispute that. Intimidating would be somebody swearing, raising their voice. I would find that intimidating. If someone was swearing, belligerent, raising their voice, I spoke calmly.
Yep.
I was calm, collected.
I should say assertive.
That's just my natural way of speaking. Yes.
Right. If mum had walked, like mum and dad had walked in with their kids and said, "Are those posters appropriate?" What do you think the outcome would have been then?
If a mother walked in and said, "Are they appropriate?" They would. It's all speculation, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. They might have followed the same procedure and said, "Would you like to talk to a doctor about it?" And then they might have gone through it might have had the same outcome. If a mother walked in and said, "I'm very worried about the promotional material, and I've read some complaints, or I've looked at some documentation on the TGA website that alludes to the fact that some posters shouldn't be advertised, some material should not be publicised for that reason." So it could have had possibly the identical outcome. They would have booked a consultation with the doctor, they would have gone over some of the risks attached, and then they would have that's all very purely speculative, but from my understanding, the outcome would have been the same, regardless of who attended. Yeah. And of course, that I would take in some documentation, because you want to be able to substantiate where you're coming from. So of course, you know, that you're going to say, well, look, here's some information that I'm concerned about. Have a read of it. I mean, it's all basic practice.
Did you give them ample chance to read the document?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I said make copies of it. So that's why I find these allegations very unusual and malicious as well. I think there's some form of corruption involved filing making these allegations. I find that yes, very bizarre. Especially when I attended the surgery previously and they were well aware of my presence there. They knew well in advance. And I have video documentation to verify that.
Alright. You got any questions? What was your intended outcome when you walked in?
For the doctor to do his research in relation to the promotional material and then take the correct action afterwards, whether they were supposed to remain or whether they were to be taken down for the best interest of the patients and the surgery.
So if they had have remained up,
Mm-hmm.
would the outcome have changed?
If he had have looked into it and said it was fine, then that would have been fine. I would have said okay. Obviously, if he had have showed me and pointed, because I had the paperwork, if he had have said no, that's fine. I've looked into it. I'm well aware that we're within our right to have those posters up. We're within our right. I would have said, oh, okay then, and then I would have left in a calm manner, just like it's just standard practice.
So tell me about how you've uploaded it to the internet, and or you've gone once you've got home. What have you done with them? Well, how did you film it first of all?
I just had a camera. I mean, anywhere that you're in a setting, you always expect to be filmed. I mean, that's whether in your shopping centre, wherever you are. Yeah, there's no expectation of privacy, so I had that filmed.
I'm asking you, how did you physically film it though?
With a camera attached. Yeah.
Attached to, like, what sort of camera? Describe to me the camera.
It was a camera that's with sunglasses.
A sunglasses camera?
Yeah.
Right. Can you
for my own
describe
personal
them?
protection and yeah.
Describe them to me in detail.
Just a normal sunglasses with a camera on them.
Okay. And then, so what happened? So
it's all common practice, really.
I would probably disagree with that. That common practice is to have a camera hidden in your sunglasses. I certainly don't have that, and I don't know anyone else who does.
Oh, it's for my personal safety.
That's
just like you guys, I'm sure, when you're out in the field, you've got necessary cameras to ensure your protection as well.
Well, I personally don't know, but
a lot of officers do, body cams, all of that.
In relation to the camera, did you tell them that you were filming or that there was a camera embedded in your sunglasses?
I don't recall. Yeah, I don't recall ever alluding or mentioning anything either way.
Yeah.
And what was the rationale behind filming the incident in the first place?
It's always good to have record of what transpires. It's always, in these current times, everybody's always under surveillance. It's everywhere.
Why is it good to have a record? You obviously.
I keep record of I keep record of everything. That's just how I go about things. It's very valuable, especially if an incident breaks out or if any harm comes my way. it's always good to have everything on file and documented for my own personal protection and my safety.
Would you be what would you be forthcoming with that, like video evidence to police if you did witness an incident?
Most certainly, yes. If something was to transpire and that information was requested.
But you don't think it's necessary to inform people that you're coming past on a day-to-day basis that you're filming them in your sunglasses? Like children, potentially walking past, or families that don't particularly want to be filmed. Do you not see an issue with that?
Well, I adhere to the guidelines when it comes to broadcasting.
Yep.
And YouTube have the discretion over what they find suitable. So if it goes against their guidelines, the video would have been removed, but in fact it was monetized. They put an ad at the front of the video. It fell right in with their guidelines, and it didn't break any rules or regulations. YouTube found it perfectly suitable video to be uploaded, even to the fact that it was monetized.
So where were the sunglasses?
Just normal or something.
On your head?
Yeah.
Oh.
A lot of journalists have all types of cameras for their work and their occupation.
At any point when you've walked through the surgery, I know we sort of touched on it, but so you didn't notify the doctor that you were filming?
Well, everybody's filming. I mean, he was aware of it after the fact, I know for a fact. And
how do you mean after the fact?
Well, he was aware of it afterwards, because I did receive a bill and he had no concern about it.
About filming?
Yeah, he had no concern about that, because I got the bill.
A bill for what?
I got a bill for attending the surgery for the second time, which was...
Is it not a bulk billing?
Yeah.
The first consultation was the second.
But did he? So has he billed you for filming, or has he billed you because you've
No.
done a medical appointment? You've had an appointment with him.
Yeah, and then they realised my medical record was on Medicare card was on file, so they had my so that substantiates the fact that they had my address, and they had all my information prior to me attending. Yeah.
I'm still confused by the bill part.
Yeah.
It's a bulk billing clinic.
Yeah.
So what were you billed for?
Well, they sent out a bill by mistake, because that was later dropped. Because I sent back, can you itemise the account? And they said, oh no, that was sent out in error.
But what makes you, by receiving that bill, know that the doctor was aware of your filming on that day?
Yeah.
Because he didn't address anything like that.
So you think common practice would be to send you a bill with a cover letter to suggest that he was aware of your filming?
I'm not sure what way they would have gone about that.
Okay. Just so you're so certain that he was aware of your filming,
I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you either way, to be honest.
You said that you know for a fact, after the fact.
After that he
knows that you...
Well, no, maybe he didn't.
Okay.
Maybe he didn't. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay.
And
And then what was the rationale behind uploading this to YouTube?
Just to have it, just so I could state that I've followed up on the inquiries and the complaints that were submitted to me. So I was, following the procedure and following up on the inquiries of the concerned citizens and the concerned people of Australia that were messaging in. They could say, well, yes, I complained to We Are Change. I said I was concerned about the promotional material, and then he obviously went ahead and acted and followed through with the complaints that were submitted. So I was doing what I was requested to do in a journalistic sense, reporting on a matter that was submitted through to me. Mm-hmm.
So how many people complained about?
Multiple, and I've even interviewed a lot of mothers of vaccine-injured children and people that are very concerned about this, and they brought it to my attention. And I found it, in my personal opinion, I found it quite disturbing as well. So I could see the reason behind the concern.
Prior to uploading, was the video edited or changed, or was it captured in its entirety and then uploaded in its entirety?
That's a good question. For length, it was shortened down just to make it seem so it flowed better and just like cutting points out of the video that weren't useful, like walking down a corridor where there's an uneventful. So it was strictly the encounters and the communication. But yeah, 95% of it was uploaded. Yeah, but I think walking down a hallway and waiting in the waiting room, that was edited out because there's no reason for that to be uploaded. Sitting there waiting in a room for a doctor, nobody's going to watch that. So I shortened it to when the doctor opened up and said, "Please come in." So for time, duration, all common practices.
Do you think that acting on behalf, in your opinion, of the public or a certain part of the public, I know you've mentioned several times that you think it's your obligation to the public and to act on behalf of these people making complaints. Do you think that your actions on that day were lawful or within means of...
Most certainly, yes, absolutely. As stated before, I presented myself as a concerned member of the public, as a moral obligation, following up on complaints that were put through. I was dressed casually. They had all my information. I never gave the impression that I was acting on behalf of a government body. I never produced any identification to allude to the fact. And I never gave them any impression that I was from any... I never stated I was from any branch of any service. They never asked me where I was from, and I never stated. So as far as I'm concerned, just a patient coming through because they had all my information on file previously and were informed. They were well informed of the fact that I was going to be there in regards to the posters. So they had adequate time and information to make the correct decision.
Do you think, I know you said that you didn't specifically state that you were from a government body or from a particular organisation, but do you think, looking at from an outside perspective, coming in a professional manner, with an assertive tone, handing out printouts from a government official body, and acting in the way you did, stating it's a public service and your obligation, and speaking in that way, do you think that they could have perceived that you weren't potentially a concerned member of the public, but in fact someone from a professional organisation?
Absolutely not, because of the fact that I was there prior and I submitted my Medicare card, my details, my date of birth, and I explained to the doctor in a previous consultation that I was concerned about the posters, and he said come back and speak to the ladies at the front desk, go through the channels. So I was following on the directive of the doctor.
And was it the same people at the front desk both times?
There was possibly a different girl at the desk. There was an older woman the first time.
Yep.
And the second time there was a couple of younger ladies.
Yep.
Whether they were there on the first time that I walked in,
yep,
I did not take notice of them. They could have been there,
yep,
but my main communication was with an older female.
So it's potential that they weren't actually informed about your attendance.
That would have been an error on the doctor's part, not following up on the inquiries and the information that was submitted.
Regardless of whose fault it was, there's a chance that it wasn't in fact the same people at the front desk that would have been informed about your attendance.
I believe it was the doctor's obligation to inform the staff.
Yeah, but
absolutely.
My question is there a possibility that it wasn't the same staff members that were there on your first day of attendance, knowing that you're a concerned member of the public, and when you've attended on the second occasion, different staff potentially weren't aware of...
Well, they had adequate time to be made aware,
yep,
and that's the priority of the surgery, to look after the patients and inform those staff, yes.
Yep.
And even keep a record on file and say, there's a gentleman that was making inquiries in relation to the posters. I think to run a family surgery, let's double check that those posters and the material is in good standing. So when the gentleman approaches the surgery again, we can say, no, we're well within our rights to have that. Case dismissed.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I guess the fact that they haven't looked up the guidelines, or they haven't made their own inquiries, potentially could be because they've believed that you, by coming in and making these allegations that they're not appropriate, they've thought that that is correct information and felt obliged to take them down.
the responsibility lies with them to do their own research in regards to how they run a practice, what's lawful and what's not.
Yeah.
Do you think in the way that you've gone about doing this, having a surveillance device filming them and uploading to YouTube, waiting a couple of days, there may have been some deceit in the way that you've conducted yourself?
No, not at all. It's a moral standpoint coming through. As I said, you've got no expectation of privacy in a public setting when there's cameras everywhere.
Privacy aside.
No, I think it's well above board, and it'd be the same in regards to whatever premises was. Even if someone was to enter a police station and say, I'm not sure about some of the promotional material here, well, the responsibility lies within you guys to make sure that the advertisements are up and everything's above board, isn't it?
Well, there's that argument, I suppose.
Exactly. And
is there any responsible on you as a fair and honest journalist to be open and honest about the way you're conducting yourself?
I think that goes back to the public, and the public, it was received very well. I was applauded for that, and for looking after the best interests of people, especially families that have got vaccine-injured children. I mean, if I've had them crying. I've interviewed mothers. They're catastrophic. They have to become a full-time carer for their child that have suffered from disastrous reactions. So I mean, it's a matter of morals and ethics as well. And I think it's up to the duty to do what's right and act on behalf of the best interests of people that are concerned. And the priority and the responsibility rests within that surgery to make sure that they're adhering to those guidelines. It's up to them to make those inquiries, which I repeatedly insisted, look, please, I urge you, make your own inquiries, look into this. And that's all stated too. I mean, I said, yeah, look into that. I said, no, once again, it's up to you to make your own inquiries as to in relation to those posters.
At any point did you announce that you were in fact just a concerned citizen or a journalist?
I did not announce anything apart from the first consultation when I handed over my Medicare card, and I was following the doctor's directives. Yeah.
Did you advise them then that you?
That I'm a patient, because I handed my Medicare card and I said I'd like to speak to a doctor in relation to vaccines, which is actually broadcasted on the news as well. It says if you've got any concerns, speak to your GP about it, which is exactly what I did. Yeah. And filming it for my own personal record as well, so I could look back on it. And yeah, having it all above board. Yeah. Following the correct procedures, handing over the information, imploring them to do their own research as to what's lawful and what's allowed. And I think that's very important in these current times, to do immense amounts of research, especially with this medical procedure that has serious risks involved. You know, yeah, it's very wise before you enter into anything to make sure that the safety and well-being of others is paramount.
Are they same sunglasses that you wore to the police station today?
No.
So you're not always filming such?
Not always filming, no.
But earlier you did say you were always filming for your own safety.
Yeah, for events and different matters like that. Yeah, for events and protests, different rallies, and yeah, other encounters where I think something could occur. Yeah, for personal protection. I mean, living in this surveillance state, you're always being recorded.
Any more questions?
I mean, people have got dash cams in cars.
Yes.
Very visible dash cams.
Very visible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
secreted. Yeah.
Sunglasses, but better.
Alright, so you may be charged with the offence of impersonating a government official. Your fingerprints are required for identification purposes. Before I go on, sorry. So yeah, you may be charged with impersonating a government official. You don't have to say or do anything unless you wish to do so, but whatever you say or do may be recorded and given evidence. You understand that?
I comprehend with what's being said, but I don't understand the charge. No, I find that false and misleading. As I stated, I never presented a badge. I never alluded to the fact that I was from the government. I never once stated that. They had no impression of that. There was no way that they could have alluded to that when I informed them prior to my visit that I was going to attend. No, so I find that very unusual that would be on file there. Yeah, I dispute that. I dispute that.
Just to explain it to you, I guess, in the simplest ways, that we act on reports that get made to us. So I guess by the fact that the clinic or a staff member or the doctor, the fact that they have come to police
18 months after.
Irrelevant with police how that works. We can go through that after the interview. But the fact that that has been reported to police is enough for you to understand that it is in existence. So the report itself we're acting on, and we, like I said before, we do the investigation into it. So at this stage, Tyson's explaining that you might be charged with those offences, which is impersonating a government official. So whether or not you believe that you're guilty of that,
I dispute it.
Yeah, that's fine. But that's what court would do down the track. So at this stage, we're just collecting all the evidence.
Yes, absolutely.
If it ends up that you go to court, that's where you can dispute your involvement or whether whether it's legit or not. But our job is just to put it all together and potentially charge you for it.
And present it to the court.
And they make their decision whether you're guilty or not.
Their decision.
It's a coordinated effort to silence people. They've chose the timing of this.
No. So this is just to present all available information about what's happened to the courts, and they make the overall decision. All right, that's not police's decision to say that you're guilty. We just present all the information to them.
Certainly.
Which you'll also get a copy of down the track.
Certainly.
That's what it gets to. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, do you wish to say anything else in answer to that charge?
I believe I've addressed it adequately.
Okay. Do you wish to make a further statement in relation to the matter, like a written statement?
If necessary, I will. But I dispute that charge, and I find those allegations very misleading, and it's a very weak case, and it's very, very strange that would be brought forward. The timing, there's numerous red flags, and I get an overwhelming sense of corruption involved in this, because I was due to give a speech this week, and the timing of this is all very, very unusual.
Nothing's stopping you from
giving the speech?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Good one.
It's got nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So another part to being in custody today is some fingerprint information, so I'm going to read that out to you. So you may be charged with the offence of impersonating a government official. Your fingerprints are required for identification. Your fingerprints may be used in evidence in court. If you refuse to give your fingerprints voluntarily, a member of the police force may use reasonable force to obtain them. If you are not charged with the relevant offence within 6 months, or are so charged but the charge is not proceeded with, or another relevant offence before the end of that period, then your fingerprints are destroyed.
Oh, okay, yes.
Okay, so you understand that information?
Yes, I do.
Alright. Do you wish to comment on any of that information?
No.
Do you consent to giving your fingerprints?
Yes.
Okay. Alright, interview concluded at 11:57 by mileage.
Yep.